This video is about how to sequence yoga postures based on subtle anatomy. So the subtle body has many different kinds of energies that are correlating to different parts of the physical body. Different yoga postures and breathing techniques work with different parts of the body and activate these energies in different ways. So we can sequence different yoga postures based on our understanding of subtle anatomy in order to create a specific kind of energetic effect that impacts our awareness in a particular way and helps to unify that awareness with universal consciousness. These energies that we're going to be working with are called prana vayus, which means vital winds. And there are 5 primary prana vayus that we will be working with. The first prana vayu is called apana vayu. This is a down and out flowing vital energy that is centralized in the pelvis and in the legs. Apana vayu governs functions such as urination, defecation, flatulence, ejaculation, as well as grounding and connecting to the earth. Postures such as forward folds, hip openers, and standing poses all activate apana vayu by working with the hips and the pelvis, or the pelvis and the legs. The second prana vayu is called prana vayu, and in this case, prana refers not to the universal life force, but rather to a specific form of the universal life force that exists primarily within the chest and in the head. This is an in and up flowing energy that is related to the senses as well as to respiration. So it takes in information from the environment and breath. And poses such as chest openers and back bends help to activate prana vayu. The third prana vayu is called samana vayu, which is a fiery heating energy that is centralized in the abdomen and which we can activate through abdominal work and twists and pranayama techniques that involve pumping the navel. And there are also a few poses that involve causing apana to flow up rather than down from the legs and the pelvis, and which cause prana to flow down rather than up from the chest and the head. And those two energies meet and fuse in the abdomen to create more samana, this fiery digestive energy. Certain poses like chair pose, which is also called Utkatasana, are really especially good for this. The fourth prana vayu is called Udana vayu, which is an up and out flowing energy that is related to speech and to vomiting. And it's also associated with our aspiration and our ambition. So certain poses like inversions, which are where we reverse the body so that gravity pulls energy towards the head. And also Singhasana, lion pose, which involves extending the tongue and creating a noise while breathing out that helps to activate Udana. So Singhasana involves going like this. And the fifth prana vayu is called Vyana vayu, which is an all-pervasive energy which goes throughout the entire body, but which is especially concentrated in the joints. So there are postures such as Shavasana, which is lying prone or on the back, which is usually done at the end of a yoga sequence, which helps this whole body circulation of energy. And there are also other poses such as warrior pose or triangle pose where we're really extending, and that helps to activate Vyana as well. When we sequence poses, generally speaking, first we want to center ourselves at the beginning of a sequence, which can look a lot of different ways, but basically involves becoming present with the body and the breath in order to calm ourselves down and to become more aware and present as we enter into a yoga sequence. Then we warm up, which is just doing some gentle stretches and movements in order to wake up the body, to warm up the muscles, and to increase flexibility so that we do not harm ourselves by going immediately into really extreme poses. So after we've centered and we warmed up, then we can sequence poses based on the prana vayus. This doesn't have to be a strictly linear sequence, so we can work with the different prana vayus in many different ways, in different orders. But generally speaking, in order to create a holistic effect that incorporates all 5 prana vayus and expands our consciousness so that our awareness is unified with the universe, we want to work with them in the order of apana, prana, samana, udana, vyana. And like I said, it doesn't have to be strictly linear, but we want to ground with apana. We want to open up our chest and our breathing with prana, and then we want to fuse those 2 energies, the apana and the prana, in the abdomen to create samana, this fiery digestive energy. Then when we've awakened samana, we activate udana, this upward ascending energy in the throat, in order to cause that fiery energy to rise from the abdomen into the chest and the head, to open the higher chakras, to expand the fire of awareness, to sublimate the dense energies that are held in the lower chakras, and to transmute those energies into more spiritual, loving energies. Once we've activated udana, then we go into oftentimes shavasana, which activates vyana and causes that sublimated energy to spread throughout the entire body. So at the end of a sequence, we relax into this shavasana, and that allows the energy body to integrate all of the work that we've done throughout the yoga sequence. One other point to keep in mind when you're creating a sequence for yourself is that oftentimes it is good for the body to balance a really extreme pose that goes in one direction with a counter pose that goes in the other direction. However, you also have to be careful when you're doing this. For example, you do not want to go directly from a really intense back bend to a really intense forward fold, because it's too extreme of a change on the spine. It's just like flexing as far as you can in one direction, then immediately going to the other direction. You want to have some kind of intermediary pose between those two in order to prevent yourself from hurting yourself. So there are different kinds of asana, which I've already mentioned, that have different kinds of effects, and it's usually good to have some kind of balance between these different kinds of poses in a sequence. However, depending on things like your personal constitution and how you're feeling at the time and what kind of effect you're going for in a sequence, you can emphasize certain kinds of poses. And really, even though I can tell you these generalities about the effects of different types of poses, each specific pose has its unique energetic impact on the physical and subtle body. So there are standing poses, which are heating and grounding. There are forward folds, which are calming and promote inward focus. There are back bends, which are invigorating and promote circulation. There is abdominal strengthening, which promotes digestion and vitality. So that's digestion both on a physical level and mental digestion of ideas and experiences and emotions. Then there are twists, twisting in one direction and or the other, which promote circulation in the abdomen and are good for the nervous system and the spine. There's balancing poses, which are really good for coordination and concentration. There are seated, supine, and prone poses, which are calming. And there are inversions, which increase blood flow to the brain by using the power of gravity to pull blood from the legs and other parts of the body up into the chest and the head. And this process also facilitates energetic sublimation, which is where dense instinctual energies that are concentrated in the lower chakras can be sublimated into subtler, more spiritual energies. There are also many different kinds of pranayama, and we will cover a few of those in another video especially, but I want to caution my viewers that pranayama, especially more intense forms of pranayama such as Kapalabhati and Bhastrika, can be very helpful and powerful and spiritually transformative in certain contexts, but they can also cause damage to the nervous system if they're overdone, or if they're done in a setting where the air is polluted. So that means that you should not be practicing intense forms of pranayama in major cities or anywhere where there's a lot of air pollution. Ideally, you should be somewhere where there's plenty of plant life to clean the air. That's not always possible for everybody. So if you live in a major city, I would recommend keeping to gentler forms of pranayama, like lengthening the breath. So these different forms of pranayama, like I just said, include lengthening the breath, which is just drawing out the inhale, lengthening the exhale, breathing with the diaphragm. There's also an even more extended form of lengthening the breath where we take a complete breath, which is where we very slowly feel the abdomen expand, breathing in very slowly until the abdomen has expanded as much as it can. Then we begin to expand our chest muscles on the same inhale. So it's like we're filling one pot on the bottom, then one pot on the top with breath. And as soon as both pots have been completely filled, pause, and then empty the pot on top using your chest muscles before emptying the pot on bottom, exhaling and relaxing the abdomen. And that can be repeated for a few breaths. We're not going to be doing that in depth in this particular video. Other forms of pranayama include nadi shodhana, which means purification of the nadis, the energy channels. And that involves alternate nostril breathing, where we seal off one nostril at a time as we inhale, and then we seal the other nostril and exhale through that nostril. And then we inhale through the same nostril that we just exhaled from, and then we exhale out of the first nostril that we inhaled through. And through this alternation of breathing through the right and left nostrils, it is balancing the energy channels on the right and left side of the body, promoting calmness and concentration. And this can also be done without physically sealing the nostrils. It can be done purely with awareness, just following your awareness up one nostril and out the other, and then up that nostril and out the first nostril. And with time, with practice, you can learn to control the flow of prana purely with your mind. And that is a higher achievement than doing it with your fingers, but it takes a lot of practice in order to get there, really. Other forms of pranayama include Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati is a samana type pranayama that works with this fiery energy. It's very cleansing and purifying. It literally means skull shining. So with Kapalabhati, there is an exhale in which you contract the navel and pull it back towards the spine, and then you simply relax for the inhale. So it's an active exhale and a passive inhale. like this. And you can place your hand on your stomach in order to feel yourself do this if you're in a relatively pure oxygen environment. So it looks like this. And that pulling of the navel really stimulates the fiery energy in the abdomen, and the passive exhale allows any energy that is being brought up to purify and release toxins and unhelpful energies in the body. There is a slightly different variation of that same kind of technique called pastrika, which means bellows breath, which involves both an active exhale and an active inhale. So it's pumping the navel in and out. So with these two pranayamas in particular, I advise caution because some people find them over-activating, but they can also be extremely powerful for stimulating this fiery energy and stimulating kundalini and for promoting awareness and clarity. Another form of pranayama is called ujjayi, which means victorious breath. Ujjayi is done by constricting muscles in the throat in order to create a sound as you breathe that sounds kind of like the flow of the tide at the ocean. So this breath especially works with udana, the upward flowing energy that is concentrated in the throat. So it is very stimulating and promotes this upward flow of energy. So it sounds like this. And the final form of pranayama that I am going to talk about today is called shitali, which is the cooling breath. So this can be done in two different ways, and the first way that I'm going to show you is the most effective. So the first form of shitali pranayama involves making a U shape with the tongue, like a straw, extending the tongue past the lips, and then breathing in through the straw of your tongue and breathing out through the nose, like this. So by breathing through the straw of the tongue, the air is cooled as it enters into the lungs. And this helps to cool down any excess heat in the body if you find yourself overheated. It's also very soothing and relaxing. And I mean, there are many other forms of pranayama, including holding in the breath between the inhale and the exhale, holding out the breath between the exhale and the inhale, and other things of this nature. But these are the basic forms that we will be using in this program. Om.